You're listening to Cars and Coffee, your local home for the latest in motorsports and automotive news here on 91.3 WHJE. And now, here's your host, Nathan Ward. Hello and welcome back to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. My name is Nathan Ward. We are debuting a new show format today. We have three major segments. One where I talk about something, any given news item of the week, go to a song break, I do a second segment of a similar nature, go to another song break, and then do a third segment where I talk about this week's races and make some picks. On a short tangent, I did not realize that the World Endurance Championship season opener was going on this morning. It started at 6 a.m. our time at the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar. They moved it to Friday this year due to the beginning of Ramadan, so I am missing because the race still hasn't ended yet. So I missed the WEC season opener. So, before we get started, head over to our Instagram if you want to get in touch with the show. Go to @carsandcoffee_WHJE and follow the station, of course, at WHG_radio. You can find show replays on YouTube anywhere. Go listen to our amazing Riley-thon show we did last week with Oliver Mason and Ryan Powell. That amazing show is up on YouTube at youtube.com/TWIRvids. And of course, listen anywhere, live, anywhere in the world at WHJE.com. Let's get started here. The first bit of news, it's not really news, we're going to talk about that next, but the first bit of information, so to say, is I have to do this every year. I have to gripe at least once a year about how bad the IndyCar schedule is, because one of the biggest fan base issues every year when it comes to IndyCar is how lackluster the schedule is for the series, what tracks we go to, what tracks we don't go to, and what tracks people want to go to. With only one big speedway and the threat of losing another oval track with Hy-Vee pulling out of its basically life support of the Iowa Speedway event, what does IndyCar need to do to fix its schedule and finally make the fans happy? Because this has come back up again because Doug Bowles has replaced Jay Fry as the president of IndyCar, and Jay Fry and Mark Miles, when it comes to adding tracks to the schedule, barring Milwaukee and whatever random street track Mark Miles happens to be into this week, they're very slow with it. Jay Fry tried to talk to Homestead a couple years ago, Homestead Miami Speedway, and basically got turned down because NASCAR does not like us. So, what do we need? What do fans want? What do fans want to add to the schedule? I've grouped this into three major sections here. What needs to be added? What the fans want to be added? What needs to go? What needs to be taken off the schedule? What is highly unlikely to be added to the schedule, i.e., this will absolutely never happen, but the fans still really want them. So, I've grouped together a few tracks in here. I've got 11 tracks. I've got 11 tracks in here that I've sorted into these three categories, and we're going to go into them one by one, see what they bring, see what the positives and negatives are before we go to a song break and actually talk about some news. So, what needs to be added? This is the list that I have come up with along with Kyle Conley, former host of this show. Great follow on Twitter, by the way, at Kyle Conley 59. His opinions are they're certainly opinions. So, go follow him on Twitter. The tracks that need to be added, in my opinion, Mexico City. This is a race that is actually pretty close to happening, according to Mark Miles. But again, this is Mark Miles saying this, so we don't really know. It could be forever. We could be still taking the opening steps because Ricardo Juncos somehow finagled the rights to be the representative of IndyCar to the entirety of Latin America. So maybe that might not happen. But Mexico City is definitely the one that's closest to happening. Huge fan base, especially for these international races. International fans love their drivers. I talked about this last week with Ryan Powell and Oliver Mason. The Mexican fans, when F1 comes to Mexico, No matter how bad Sergio Perez became as a driver when he had a seat, half of that crowd in Mexico City were Checo fans. They love their home drivers. That place would be packed if we went to Mexico City. If you think about it, Pato O'Ward went to the Mexico Grand Prix weekend. He got swarmed in a shopping mall by like 30,000 people. That's insane. The amount of think about like a whole. The Mexico City track runs through a baseball stadium. Think about an entire baseball stadium full of Pato O'Ward fans. The scenes, what a visual that would be for the growth of the sport. We need to go to Mexico City. We really need to go to Mexico City. Another track that we really don't have any we don't have any Brazilian drive. Well, I don't think we do. No, we actually don't. The only Brazilian driver I think is Helio Castroneves, and he's only doing the 500. But the second most wanted track I believe, is the Interlagos F1 track in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We've been trying. We've really been trying. We've been in the Sao Paulo market before. It was a really big success. We tried to go to Brasilia in 2015, and then we got shut down by the government or something. But the government of Brazil is open to it. The track's open to it. We just Penske's gone down to Penske's representatives have come down to inspect the track and see if it's suitable for racing. But one of the we really need Interlagos. We really need some international races to try and get that reach back out there, because we do have a really good Brazilian driver in Indy Lights right now, Kyle Collette. Hopefully he's going to be in an IndyCar in the next couple years. And hopefully by then we have a race in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So, one of the honestly strange Twitter opinions I saw, this NASCAR fan put out his dream IndyCar schedule. And it included some real odd choices. One, it did not include Road America, which I find odd, but that's a NASCAR fan, and NASCAR dumped Road America too, so, salt in the wounds, I guess. But his season finale was the Interlagos Outer Circuit. If you've never seen the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, which is the full name of the Interlagos Circuit, it looks like an oval. It kind of looks like a roval, except there was never an oval built. It looks really weird, but there's this outer layout that hasn't been used, I don't think, ever. There's just little bits of it that were parts of other layouts until the track got renovated in the 90s. But it's abandoned. It's in complete disrepair. Like, it's worse than Motegi, but anything's worse than Motegi because Honda straight up lied to us about the condition of the Motegi Oval. I'll never forgive Honda for that because Motegi was an awesome track. The guy had the season finale as the Interlagos outer track on the Speedway kit, and I just thought, man, I can't think of a bigger track and car combo that would be an absolute death trap. Like, trust me, I really like oval racing. I don't like oval racing that much. I won't go to those great lengths to have an oval race at Interlagos. It's just not worth it. That it was hilarious, but also really stupid. But the big thing with the IndyCar schedule after the loss of Texas Motor Speedway after 2023, after probably one of the greatest races we've seen in the last 5 years, we only have one super speedway, and it's the Indy 500. We have Nashville Super Speedway, except it's made out of concrete. If it was asphalt, we probably could run these Super Speedway kits there, but the cars aren't going fast enough since the track is concrete, so we're running the short oval kit, which if we're building a new car, can we at least build a new car where we can have the Super Speedway kit at Nashville? That's all I'm asking. But we need another true Super Speedway, and what is better for a true super speedway than Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. It was once called the Indy of the East. This track, it's had its ups and downs with IndyCar. It was a staple of the IndyCar schedule in the 1970s and 1980s, yeah. But it got removed from the schedule for reasons basically amounting up to track owners didn't like IndyCar anymore, and also the beginning seeds of the split. The USAC kart split in the 1970s left Pocono as one of only 2 USAC events alongside the Indy 500, which left it off of the kart schedule, and eventually it just kind of faded away. Then it came back in 2013. It had a kind of miserable run, really. It's really unfortunate, the 2 accidents involving Justin Wilson and Robert Wickens, but you can't really blame the track for those 2 accidents. I'm going to contradict something that Kyle Conley said during the Radiothon program back in the fall, where he basically said that a lot of management views Pocono as another Las Vegas Motor Speedway where we lost Dan Weldon. I disagree. I mean, management could very well view Pocono that way. I don't think it should be viewed that way. Justin Wilson's accident, where Sage Karam hit the wall, a piece of debris came off, hit the driver in the head. With the aero screen, that problem is basically gone. That is really a non-factor now. There have been multiple incidents where the aero screen has proven itself in how it saved Rinus VeeKay's life at Iowa. It saved Callum Ilot's life at Texas in 2022 when he got hit basically right in the face with a piece of suspension during practice. It got deflected off of the aero screen. It would have hit him right between the visor, like right in the eye hole where the visor opens. That could have been really bad. But that accident has been, I don't want to say solved, but that accident can be prevented now. These cars are no longer open cockpit. The aero screens are insanely strong. Like, I don't know how Red Bull did it. It's just Red Bull things. But that's a non-factor anymore. Wickens' accident, on the other hand, is quite peculiar in where 2 cars touched wheels. In this case, it was right front to left rear. Wickens' car was the one behind. Wickens' car went up and over Ryan Hunter-Reay's car and into the catch fence. Where that happened on the track is turn 2, the tunnel turn. That was when Pocono was built, that was an analog of the 4 turns at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's a 90-degree corner. Pocono Raceway is a right triangle, even though it doesn't look like it. That crash can happen at any big oval. We've seen it happen at other big ovals. It happened to Ryan Briscoe at Chicagoland, of all places, where it split the car in half and sent the survival cell tumbling down the banking. It happened to Kenny Brack at Texas. Does this mean we get rid of every big oval? No. It really doesn't. So these 2 accidents aren't really Pocono's fault. What really was Pocono's fault after the accident was its absolutely awful fence repair. It looked like, man, I don't have a picture pulled up right now, and I can't pull up a picture because this is a radio show, but if you look at the fence repair, you can just Google it, like Pocono Raceway 2018 fence repair. It looks like someone took the screen out of your like suburban household window and like just boop right on there. Like just strapped it to the existing fence with zip ties. That's it. It was absolutely awful. But honestly, I actually did. I was gonna write a full like YouTube video about this, and then I decided not to. The average cost that it would be to fix the fencing from the entrance of turn 2, where it gets really bad, to the exit of turn 3, where that section of fencing ends, it would be about $1.5 million. Not a lot, or not. That's not a little. That's not a small amount of money by any means. Is it within the track's yearly budget? Absolutely. Especially with the success of the NASCAR event. And that's my second reason why I would love to see Pocono back. The NASCAR event has been sold out the last couple years. There's a crazy clip from the NBC broadcast of, I think it was last year's Pocono race. It was last year's Pocono race. It was either last year or the year before. If you go back to that broadcast, you will see a line for probably a mile and a half, halfway through the race, of people trying to get in. That's how popular and attractive this race was. When IndyCar was at Pocono in the second period from 2013 to 2019, they had their race sandwiched in between two NASCAR weekends within a month and a half of each other. That is where the crowd deficiency came from. And it wasn't a bad crowd by any means. The last crowd was like 30,000 people, which was more than what we ever got at Texas in the 2020s. But the crowds weren't, by IndyCar oval standards, awful. This wasn't Auto Club Speedway in 2015. This was respectable. Not great, but respectable by IndyCar terms. Pocono's main grandstand holds about 90,000 people. If it's a third full, I'll take it. That's between two NASCAR dates within a month and a half of each other. You can't milk that market. You can't milk that market that much in that little amount of time. Now that NASCAR has dropped a Pocono date, has moved to one weekend in mid-July, I think. This opens a perfect window to either close the season or have the penultimate race of the season at Pocono on Labor Day weekend. The third reason why I don't think those crashes were the track's fault specifically, it was mainly for Wickens, for Robert Wickens' crash specifically. It was the aggression of the drivers due to how hard it was to pass with the new aero kit. 2018 was the first year with the Universal Aero Kit. Overall, over the last, has it been 7 years already? My word, it's going to be, oh my word. We've had the same Aero Kit for 7 years and the same car for 13. That's insane. We at least need a new Aero Kit if we can't get a new car. But the new Aero Kit was incredibly hard to pass with compared to the pack race generator that was the manufacturer Aero Kits with the bumper pods. The car was incredibly hard to pass with, which led to drivers being incredibly aggressive to the point where on the opening start, Graham Rahal and Spencer Pigot hit each other trying to, because at Pocono's like 9 lanes wide, so they're trying to fan out. You have cars hit each other, but this happened in 2019 too. This happened in the exact same corner the very next year because guys were getting way too aggressive because they knew the longer you got into a run, the harder it was going to be to pass a car. That's been mostly alleviated now. If you look at the Indy 500, especially if you look at the Indy 500 last year, it was super easy to pass. They basically made it into, it's borderlining on like an old Hanford device race. It's very easy to pass now that they've had this much experience with adding and taking off aerodynamic bits of this aero kit. They've fine-tuned the super speedway racing to an amazing degree, and I think a Pocono race would be absolutely incredible and put on the same kind of racing that the Indy 500 would every year. You'd have a second Indy 500, and we are in desperate need of a race in the Northeast market. I know Pocono's not really in the Northeast, but it's closer than, say, I don't know, anywhere else. Like, I think the closest race to the Northeast is Toronto, and it's not even in the U.S. So, Pocono we really need to go back to. And on that note, with a Northeast race, we really need to go to Watkins Glen. Northeastern Road Course, Finger Lakes area of New York is beautiful. It wasn't great the last couple years, but the market is too large. Like 1/3 of the U.S. population lives in the northeastern or the northern Atlantic coast. So the Northeast, New England, kind of the original 13 colonies, basically. like 1/3 of the U.S. population lives there. That is a huge market that is completely untapped by IndyCar and barely tapped into by NASCAR. NASCAR is at Pocono, Watkins Glen. The trucks go to Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, and that's pretty much it. Richmond has terrible crowds, which is why I really don't want to go back to Richmond if we lose Iowa. But that is a completely different point. So that really does it for the tracks that we really need to add to the schedule. On the other hand, there's what needs to go. There are 3 races that I think really need to get dropped. 3 tracks that I think really need to get dropped. The Thermal Club. The problems with the Thermal Club are incredibly evident. If you look at Thermal, it's basically a rich country club. The tickets to the Thermal Club race this year, like the general admission tickets, are like $200 for like just walking around. Like not even like going to sit somewhere. If you're just walking around, that'll be $200. That's insane. The average person can't afford that. Not even to mention, Thermal California is in the middle of nowhere. Like the levels of nowhere that Thermal California is located in is insane. This track it's right next to an airport, but like it's nowhere. There's like a town there, and that's like it. There's nothing around Thermal. The second race, I mean, I don't think anyone likes the Indy Grand Prix anymore, except for maybe Bobby Rahal, because it's the only race his cars do well in. But at that point, the Indy Grand Prix is just a part. It was created as a month of May extension, basically, to try and boost attendance at non-race day events. And it kind of worked, and then it doesn't, and then no one really likes the race anymore. Like, even some of the drivers are split on it. Like, no one really cares about the Indy Grand Prix anymore. I would very much prefer to see 2 weeks of qualifying or 2 weeks of practice over the Indy GP. I'd love to see cars on the oval more, especially in this period where we don't have a lot of super speedway racing. Let's take advantage of the absolute most amount of time we have on a super speedway if we can't get another one. The last track that I think really needs to go is Iowa. Iowa is just, in general, way too small for Indy cars. Last year's 2 races were not good. Yes, the crowds were good. Yes, the concerts were, yeah. That's all well and good. But Iowa did not put on a good race last year, especially during the Sunday afternoon race, or the Sunday morning race, the second race of the doubleheader. That race was not good, partially due to the kind of like half-job repave that was done by NASCAR to make it better for the Cup cars because the track was coming apart. It didn't do well for IndyCar, which is kind of also why NASCAR did it. Iowa's just in general too small for these cars. Iowa's 7/8 of a mile. It's just not big enough. I think the smallest track we should go to is Milwaukee. I think 1 mile, Milwaukee was perfect. Both Milwaukee races last year were incredible. I hate that Milwaukee only has 1 race this year. Milwaukee doubleheader last year was what a wonderful weekend. Hats off to you, Penske Entertainment, for making Milwaukee happen again. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful race. But Iowa's just too small. In the era of the Universal Aero Kit, where you don't have infinite downforce like you did with the manufacturer kits, you can't go as fast. It's just not appealing anymore. And Doug Bowles said something on Speed Street, Connor Daly's podcast, about going back to Richmond. Richmond has the exact same problems Iowa has, but to an amplified degree. Richmond is smaller than Iowa. It's 3/4 of a mile instead of 7/8 of a mile. So it's actually smaller, and Richmond really wouldn't fulfill any marketing at all. We'd have like 5 people show up to Richmond. It's just a lose-lose scenario if we go to Richmond, and we need to get rid of Iowa. Iowa's too small, and if Iowa's not being bankrolled by anybody, it serves no purpose on the schedule, really. It's really unfortunate to see an oval go, but Indy cars just aren't built for Iowa Speedway. Moving on to the highly unlikely but desired section, we have 3 tracks. All of them are ovals. 2 of them are super speedways, which really shows how desperate the IndyCar fan base is and how lopsided the schedule is. If you look at this list, I have 3 tracks on here: Michigan, Chicagoland, and Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't produce great racing for the NASCAR Cup cars anymore. What really draws me to Phoenix is how well Milwaukee went. Yes, Milwaukee's surface is old. Yes, it's completely flat. Phoenix is only flat on one end. I think Phoenix would have an okay race. I don't think it would be good or necessarily an all-timer. I don't think it would be an all-time great race. I don't think the crowd would be that great either. But Phoenix and Milwaukee's grandstand sizes are comparable. If we did well at Milwaukee, if you apply that same marketing strategy, if you show the history of IndyCar at Phoenix, I think people will show up. You definitely won't sell the place out, but you can get a respectable crowd if you promote the race correctly. If you go to Chicagoland poses multiple issues. It's too close to Indianapolis, in my opinion. It's in a market that NASCAR dominates with the street race, which is all completely new and different, which is why people like it. It's in a NASCAR-dominated market. It's owned by NASCAR, even though NASCAR's not using it. And also, even before we dropped all the ISC tracks in the late 2000s, the crowd numbers were dwindling. We couldn't get people to show up. NASCAR couldn't get people to show up, and they have far more resources than IndyCar does. Chicagoland, I don't think would work in a modern climate. As great of a track as it is, as great of a track as Chicagoland was, I don't think it'll work. Like post-COVID, post-economic crash that resulted from COVID, I don't think Chicagoland would be a viable venue. On the car side of going to Chicagoland, it would be a pack race. It would be the most pack race you would ever see in your life. It would be wing to wing, wheel to wheel for 300 miles or whatever distance they would choose. It would be absolutely insane, but also be an absolute death trap. We would be incredibly lucky if no one came out of that race injured. Chicago just doesn't have a place with current IndyCar. I mean, if you tuned the Texas package a little bit, it could work. But Chicagoland and Texas have certain disparities. Texas has higher banking. Texas's banking is flat in the sense that it's a straight incline. Chicago's is progressive, where it gradually builds from 12 degrees at the bottom, like 18 up at the top. It curves upward. It's not linear. It's a non-linear slope for all you math nerds. But I just don't think Chicagoland would work, and there's absolutely no way NASCAR would let us race there. NASCAR absolutely will not let us race in Michigan. As much as we want to, NASCAR will never let us race in Michigan. Like, the Michigan 500 is probably the most missed race within the IndyCar community, which is, it's really sad, because I love Michigan as a track. I love the NASCAR race there. The NASCAR race there is awesome. There's just no way we're going back there. The iRacing event was great. It's just sad. It's sad we can't go back there. It's sad that CART failed. It's sad that CART died. I hate that the split ended with the IRL winning. But at least we have IndyCar. And at least we are recovering. Up next, IndyCar's audience is getting younger? Just maybe. Just maybe. You're listening to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. Here's One of These Nights by the Eagles. Don't go anywhere. Cars and Coffee will be right back on 91.3 WHJE. Hi, if you're listening to this, that means you're listening to the show on playback. I just want to say thank you for listening, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss full-length show replays when they're uploaded. If you're listening on playback on the radio, go to youtube.com/TWIRvids. If you're listening to the video on YouTube, just click the button below. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. We now return to Cars and Coffee on 91.3 WHJE. Welcome back to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. My name is Nathan Ward. That was One of These Nights by the Eagles. Coming back here, IndyCar, as most fans know, is an old sport, not just in terms of the timeline, but in the average age of its fans. Over the last 20 years, since the period of the split where CART died out and the IRL was lackluster and barely keeping afloat, the series has struggled to bring in new fans due to the uncertain future of the series and, frankly, the lack of the appeal of the cars. Which leads me to this interesting discovery that was made by Racer.com. Overall, the story is titled IndyCar Fans Are Getting Younger. If you know where to find it, go to Racer.com. It's still one of the top headlines. So if you want to read the entire article, go knock yourself out. But I've pulled out a very interesting bit of information from this article that I want to talk about today. From this article, it says, looking through the series' fan demographics report published in December of 2024, IndyCar is trending in the right direction in important areas. Using Nielsen TV data from 2023, 45% of IndyCar's viewers were 65 or older. Using a different data source with YouGov in 2024, the 65-plus audience was reported at 17%. This is a very odd disparity, but I would trust the Nielsen data over the YouGov data. That's me chiming in here. The article does not say that. I should have said end quote. But still, interesting disparity. But it's just, that's chalked up to who uses YouGov and who uses Nielsen. I think Nielsen just has an older general audience or polling pool or whatever you call it. But back to the quote, it says, quote, the 25% from 2023 listed for fans aged 55 to 64 shrank to 12% in YouGov's 2024 profile. And the 13% of 2023 for fans 45 to 54 was documented as 12% in 2024. Again, this really shows that IndyCar is getting younger. But this is what really shows. Assuming the year-to-year change in metrics between the differing tracking agencies is accurate in the switch from Nielsen to YouGov, IndyCar got younger last year, with the 45 to 65 plus age group going from 83% in 2023 to 41% last year. The old audience cut in half. I don't know what you can chalk that up to. I'm not going to speculate here. You can chalk that up to more people watching. You can chalk that up to older people not getting interested or other things. But the greatest spike is found in the 25 to 34 range, which went from 7% in 2023 to 24% in 2024. We're going in the right direction, and I wanted to talk about some of the interesting things that IndyCar is doing to reach new fans. Of course, the Fox TV deal. Putting every race on network TV is going to be more likely. It's going to be more likely for someone to just stumble upon an IndyCar race. Usually that doesn't happen, but still, having every race on network TV, it's easier to find. I can find Fox easily. I have Fubo, which doesn't have channel numbers, but still, I can find Fox like instantly. FS1's a little harder to find if you don't favorite it, but still. Fox TV deal puts all races on network TV. All Indy Next content is on FS1 and FS2. So yeah, all feeder series content is back on TV again. This is one of the big complaints a lot of people had with NBC is that you couldn't watch Indy Lights unless you bought Peacock Premium, which was really sad because you couldn't, if you didn't have the money, you couldn't watch drivers climb through the ranks. Now you can, which is really one of the appeals of NASCAR. You can watch all four feeder series if you're counting ARCA. You can watch someone go all the way through each feeder series throughout the span of their career on TV, which is really appealing for the next thing that they're doing, international viewers. Again, I said this earlier when talking about why we need to race in Mexico City. International viewers are very, very passionate about the drivers from their country because why shouldn't they be proud? They should be proud that someone from their country is, competing in a level such as IndyCar or Indy Next. international TV deals are allowing international fans to follow their drivers from their country throughout the season. Penske Entertainment's been doing TV deals anywhere, like simulcasting the Fox broadcasts on like Sky Sports in the UK. They just inked a deal with a bunch of Scandinavian countries, which is huge. They have a new deal in Germany so that German fans can watch Sophia Flörsch in Indy Next, which is awesome. But I think one of the big things that really got overlooked in terms of bringing in young people is the new fantasy experience in cooperation with Grid Rival. Grid Rival, like, overhauled fantasy IndyCar. It's a complete I don't know how to describe it other than overhaul. Like, it's so wildly different. But it's great. The IndyCar website looks all brand new. It's just, we're going in the right direction here. I'm negative a whole lot on this show about the things IndyCar could do better. The things IndyCar's just straight up doing wrong. I like being positive, though. I like seeing that all of this marketing, all of this push to get IndyCar out to people through things like the Super Bowl ads, the personalized driver ads, that seems to be working. And even through last year with not great promotional management in terms of TV for NBC, that the audience is getting younger. And I think you need to go further on that. I know IndyCar's doing this already. You need to exploit TikTok. You need to really go to work on the short form content in terms of promoting the faces, promoting the personality, promoting the drivers, promoting the car, even if the car's not that interesting, still promote the cool stuff about the car, the hybrid unit, how tight the car is, the fact that the car is a bathtub with wheels. Promote yourself to younger audiences using shorts-based content on places like Instagram, TikTok, and even YouTube Shorts. Man, YouTube Shorts is really, if you want to get some young fans, you got to advertise on YouTube Shorts. But overall, IndyCar's doing a wonderful job advertising itself to newer audiences, to younger audiences. The fact that the 45 to 65 plus group cut in half, that's saying a lot. And I expect it to go down. I expect more viewers with Fox. I expect more season-long viewers, considering every race is on network now, and you don't have to find USA Network. And frankly, like, I'm going to share a story here. My grandma didn't know what USA Network was. Like, I don't think she had it. She didn't have USA Network. Like, to be fair, USA Network's all just like Law and Order reruns. So really, there's not a place where you can I don't know. What am I talking about? Why am I stuttering so much? USA Network is not easily memorable, which is why it really didn't work post shutdown of NBCSN. When we come back, we're going to make some picks and talk about what's on TV this weekend. You're listening to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Cars and Coffee will be right back on 91.3 WHJE. Hi. If you're listening to this, that means you're listening to the show on playback. I just want to say thank you for listening, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss full-length show replays when they're uploaded. If you're listening on playback on the radio, go to youtube.com/TWIRvids. If you're listening to the video on YouTube, just click the button below. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. We now return to Cars and Coffee on 91.3 WHJE. Welcome back to Cars and Coffee here on 91.3 WHJE. My name is Nathan Ward. Let's make some picks real quick and talk about the races that are going on this week before I have to head off and do other things, such as upload the show to YouTube. IndyCar's back. IndyCar is back this weekend on Fox. We will have IndyCar and Indy Next at the Albert Whitted Airport circuit for the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. The Indy Next race is at 10 a.m. on Sunday, March the 2nd. You can find that on FS1 and the Fox Sports app if you have a cable subscription and are doing other things. The main IndyCar event will be at noon on Fox the same day, Sunday, March the 2nd. for the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg and the opening of a new era of IndyCar on network television. The NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series are going to be at Circuit of the Americas. The Xfinity Series will be competing in the Focused Health 250 on Saturday, March 1st at 2:30 p.m. You can find that race on the CW. The CW is pretty hard to find now. My personal Fubo subscription doesn't carry it. I don't think it has the local Indy affiliate. If you are here in the Indy area, I know for a fact you can get it by just getting a $20 antenna. If you get like a $20 antenna off of Amazon and you want to watch NASCAR on the CW, just get an antenna. Don't pay for Hulu Plus Live TV for one channel. It just doesn't make sense. But moving on, the Cup race is Sunday, right after the IndyCar race at 3:30 p.m. on Fox on Sunday, March the 2nd. Watch the Echo Park Automotive Texas Grand Prix. I'm going to pick some drivers now. These picks will be up on Instagram if you want to revisit/criticize them. Go to carsandcoffee_WSJE to follow us on Instagram. My IndyCar pick, in general, I've got a pretty safe IndyCar pick. I'm going to pick Joseph Newgarden. I'm sorry. It's too easy. Joseph Newgarden has won here, I think twice? No. Well, he's technically won here 3 times. He's won here twice, technically because of push-to-pass gate. But I think Joseph Newgarden's a safe pick, and I don't think Penske cheats this year. I don't think they do. But otherwise, my Indy Next pick, I really don't know who to pick for Indy Next. So I just kind of spun a wheel. I landed on the 27 Andretti Global car, Salvador de Alba, which I don't think is a bad pick in general. I'm proud of my random spin of the wheel. So I think Salvador de Alba showed a lot of promise on the ovals, for sure. I think he's lacking on the road courses a little bit, but I think the Indy Next field in terms of talent is lower than last year's. I think De Alba is one of the most qualified, one of the best drivers in the field. I think he's going to take home the trophy Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on FS1. Go watch it. Indy Next is back on TV. But for the NASCAR picks, I have one safe pick and one incredibly unorthodox pick. I'm going to go with my safe pick first. For the Xfinity race, I chose William Byron in the 17 Hendrick car. Because if there's a Cup driver entering a lower series race, I learned this from Kyle Busch at Atlanta last week, just pick the Cup driver. The talent of the actual feeder series regulars is nowhere near the Cup drivers. If you really don't know, if you need to pick somebody for a competition or whatever, pick a Cup driver if there's a Cup driver entered. So I think William Byron's going to win at COTA. And my very unorthodox, very out of left field Cup pick is the Cup debut of Connor Zilisch. I think he wins in the number 87 Red Bull Trackhouse Chevy. That is my hot take of the week. I think Connor Zilisch is going to win in his Cup debut. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Thank you for listening to Cars and Coffee this week here on 91.3 WSJE. My name is Nathan Ward. Remember to go follow us on Instagram. Here's Dancing Queen by ABBA.